Have you ever noticed that very often when people are high in manipulativeness or exploitativeness or narcissism, they end up in relationships with some of the sweetest partners? Because there have been a number of different examples I can think of where I thought, of course those people ended up together, because one of them is extremely sweet and warm, and the other person is a bit of a nightmare. Have you ever wondered why that is? Well, a fascinating study just dropped, and it revealed a possible explanation. It turns out there's something about people with what's called light personalities that puts them at greater risk of ending up with people who have dark personalities. Let's figure out what that is. So the study in question is from 2025, and it wanted to know whether opposites attract is true when it comes to the extremes of personality. Specifically, do people who have what's called dark personalities feel more attracted to people with light personalities and vice versa? Now, many of us have heard of the dark triad, the dark tetrad. The dark tetrad includes narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and sadism. So narcissism is characterized by entitlement, a sense of superiority, grandiosity, a constant need for admiration. Machiavellianism is sort of coolly manipulating or even exploiting other people for your benefit. Psychopathy is largely characterized by lack of empathy or remorse, reckless risk-taking, and sadism is deriving pleasure from inflicting harm on others. But not as many people know about the light triad, which consists of humanism, faith in humanity, and Kantianism. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That's probably not how it's pronounced, is it? Kantianism? I don't know. I've only ever seen it written. So humanism is a philosophy that values human dignity. Faith in humanity is a belief in the inherent goodness of people. And Kantianism is basically the opposite of Machiavellianism. It's treating people with honesty rather than as objects for your own personal gain. So within the theory of relationship science, there are typically two competing philosophies. One is the theory that opposites attract and sort of help mellow each other out as well. And another theory is complementarity, which is that people who are similar end up together. And by the way, there was a recent study that suggested it's more of the complementarity theory than the opposites attract theory. But specifically regarding the extremes of personality, previous research theorized that those with light personalities might be especially vulnerable to exploitation by those with dark personalities. So these researchers wanted to put those two theories to the test in a speed dating context with 128 participants. The average age was 24. They gave them a personality survey, then they sent them on 3-minute dates, and then measured their dating interest in the other person. So in sum, they analyzed 1,429 dates, and I should also mention that these were all straight dates as well. And they also controlled for attractiveness, since that is obviously a known driver of dating interest. The results were honestly fascinating in more ways than just what the hypothesis was about. Those who were high in Machiavellianism and sadism had less dating success. Those high in narcissism and psychopathy were not rejected more than the general population. We're going to talk more closely about that in a second, don't you worry. Those high in narcissism, psychopathy, and sadism were more interested in short-term dating rather than long-term dating compared to the rest of the group. Those high in Machiavellianism were more interested in both short-term and long-term dating compared to the rest of the group, but those who were high in Machiavellianism and sadism were more strongly rejected by partners who did not have a light personality. However, they were not more strongly rejected by those with light personalities. So it doesn't seem to be this like opposites attract phenomenon where light and dark personalities are more closely drawn to each other, because it doesn't seem like those high in Machiavellianism and sadism are more likely to prefer those with light personalities. There's so much here to unpack, and honestly, this has me sort of reevaluating my stance on a few things. But before I tell you about that, here's something crazy that I recently learned. This past year, the wait time required for patients to see their doctor rose by 16%. Nowadays, if you want to see a doctor, your average wait time is over a month, which kind of seems low to me. When I was living in the US, my primary care doctors were booked up like 6+ months in advance. So 31 days seems low to me, but it's actually quite high, because let's be honest, when you actually need a doctor, you usually don't have 31 days or more to wait. It's really anxiety inducing and sometimes even dangerous to wait that long. That's where today's sponsor comes in, ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a completely free app and website designed to help you find high quality in-network healthcare providers with over 100,000 providers in a wide range of specialties. You can look through all of them, pick the one you want, look at their reviews, and instantly book an appointment without needing to pick up the phone. A lot of their appointments are within like 24 to 72 hours. And the the cool thing is not only is it free to use, but you can also tailor healthcare providers by your insurance. So it also helps you minimize that cost as well. All you have to do is create an account and just book the type of appointment that you're looking for. So it may not feel like it, but there are a lot of doctors out there who can see you sooner than 31 days, and they're ridiculously easy to book with ZocDoc. Plus, the ones that I would see through ZocDoc when I was still living in the US were always excellent. Click the link in my video description to easily book local, top-rated doctors who can see you quickly. So back to the findings of that study. What do those findings mean for your life? So the researchers' conclusion was people with light personalities are more likely to trust people that others reject. So it's not that these exceptionally kind, trusting people are more drawn to those with dark personalities, just that they're less likely to reject them compared to the average person. This makes a lot of sense to me. Like when I think about people I know who are just the sweetest people on earth, and they have, let's say, a partner who's horrible or friends who are not the best. It's not necessarily that they were more drawn to those people. It's just that they tend to make excuses for people. They tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. They tend to be very understanding and compassionate when people mess up. And so, of course, when you have somebody with like a dark personality who maybe messes up a lot in relationships, it makes sense that they're going to be in relationships with people who keep giving them a pass. If you have a very, very light personality, if you were like on the fringes of personality where you were like very high in those three constructs that I mentioned, it might mean that romantically speaking, you're less selective than most people because you're seeing the humanity in even the most hateful people. You're trusting people who might not be trustworthy. You're treating people with honesty without realizing that they are in turn seeing you as nothing but a means to an end. So of course you're going to be more likely to give people a chance, even people who have shown red flags, whereas those people wouldn't get very far dating other types of people. And I gotta say, this kind of shakes up my belief system a little bit because I do believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt and kind of like assuming good intentions until they give us a reason to think otherwise. I think if you're always going through life assuming that people have the worst of intentions, that can make you a very bitter, negative person. That can kind of make you project things onto people and you can kind of just jump to the worst of conclusions and it can deteriorate your relationships. But on the other hand, there is a limit to this because again, once people start to show you red flags, I do think it's important to be like, okay, I'm noting something here that maybe I shouldn't assume the best of intentions with this particular person. You know, like obviously part of what I do on this channel is I sometimes break down harmful rhetoric that people spew online, misinformation, things that are dangerous to promote in relationships, for example. And you would be surprised at how often people email me to let me know about some of the people that I covered, things that obviously I can't share. And it just kind of made me think I need to be a little bit more confident in my ability to recognize when someone is dangerous because inside me there are two wolves. They're always trying to battle it out, like, give people the benefit of the doubt, but then also like, I see something here that I think I should pay attention to. I feel like there must be a way to balance those two, to balance giving people the benefit of the doubt with also paying attention to red flags. So if you have a personality that's like very, very light, maybe you can maintain that goodness and you can maintain what makes you such a wonderful person while also learning how to discern situations in which maybe you need to turn that dial a little bit down because otherwise you could get exploited. Also, this kind of makes me wonder if maybe having an overly light personality can be just as bad as having an overly dark one. Not necessarily to other people, but maybe to yourself. Like when we think about personality traits, typically the things that are on the very extremes, like the outliers, the 99th percentile, they come with more serious disadvantages. So if you are an extremely, extremely kind, warm, empathic person, taken past a certain point, maybe that's also not ideal. Now, something else that we learned from the study is it's kind of bad news for people who are looking for short-term dating because your pool of potential partners is filled with narcissists, psychopaths, and sadists a lot more than if you were looking for long-term dating. And it's also less filled with light personalities. This doesn't particularly surprise me. Some of the worst people I know act like feminists or allies and they try to sort of push short-term dating and things like hookup culture really strongly because it benefits them. They are looking for potential victims. They love bringing more people into that culture. I just know someone in the comments is going to go, well, I like short-term dating and I'm not a psychopath. Good for you. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about popular population level trends here, not individual variants. But let's think about this critically for a second. Narcissists get quicker admiration and less limited admiration if they're jumping from partner to partner. Psychopaths get easily bored because of this like chronic emotional flatness that a lot of them struggle with. So they need that like excitement and risk taking to feel the same level of excitement that someone might feel from just like taking a walk on a nice day. So of course they're gonna like the novelty of having constantly new partners. Sadists like to torment people, so obviously they're gonna struggle with long-term relationships which kind of require caring about another person. So if you are looking for short-term dating, it's just something to be mindful of. Keep your ears peeled, keep your eyes vigilant for signs that there are people in this population who are maybe not the safest to keep around you. I guess the good news is that Machiavellians and sadists have lower success in dating, but I'm not so sure about Machiavellians, and I'll tell you why. I don't know that someone who's very, very high in Machiavellianism is necessarily going to reveal that on a self-reported survey. And obviously, like, these instruments, they're tested for reliability and validity. So I have to put some level of trust in them. But at the same time, if you think about someone who's truly very scheming and conniving and like knows how people think and know what they're trying to get at and has self-awareness, they're not going to reveal that they're Machiavellian on a self-report. They're going to say, this is trying to see if I'm Machiavellian, and they're just going to lie to a credible degree. So I do kind of wonder if maybe it's like low-level Machiavellians who don't have that skill set that highly Machiavellian people might have, who are more likely to be weeded out of dating by the general population. But narcissists and psychopaths do seem to be walking around with their dating prospects undamaged, according to this study, which is not altogether surprising because we live in a culture that does to some extent reward narcissism and psychopathy. I mean, look at the people in power. They're fucking maniacs, right? And it also made sense to me why Machiavellian people might be more interested in both short-term and long-term dating, because Machiavellianism by definition kind of implies you see other people as tools to get what you want, and there are benefits to both short-term and long-term partners. Now, some of the limitations of the study was these personality dynamics had small effect sizes, meaning they're likely just one piece of the puzzle. Attraction is very complicated and involves a lot more other factors than just personality. And again, it was self-reported traits, and it was, like I said, a straight sample. But in conclusion, don't dim your light just because the world is full of darkness. If you have a very, very light personality, that doesn't mean that you have to suddenly chuck away everything that makes you wonderful. But do learn to pay attention to red flags, because if you are more prone to giving people the benefit of the doubt, you're also more prone to being exploited by people who don't have your best intentions at heart. And stay especially vigilant if you're in a short-term dating context like hookup culture. And if you wonder why you chronically attract people in your life who have dark personalities, that may be something you want to look into further. I don't particularly love the idea of people being like, that's true, everyone I attract is a narcissist, and it's because I have a very light personality. I'm that 99th percentile. But for some of you guys, it's going to be true, right? So I do think it was an interesting study. Let me know what you thought about it. Don't forget to book an appointment with ZocDoc. I know it. I know there is some sort of appointment that you are avoiding and putting off. Don't do it. Don't do it. Thank you for your time today, and see you in the next one.